Welcome, fellow fathers and friends. This is Single Fathers Network, the podcast. I am Akram Alim. We are back at it again. I appreciate you being here. When I first found out I was going to be a father, I was in my early 20s, and I had no concept of a financial plan or what questions to ask. I know it would have benefited me greatly if I had someone to speak to provide some type of guidance. So for some of you who might be going through something similar, or just in general as a listener, this conversation will benefit you also. Our guest today is Joshua Schaubach Financial, here to discuss how some decisions made differently early on will benefit you in the future. Thank you for being here, and how are you?
I'm doing great. We talked about this before, but I know it was a confusion with the football player versus Schaubach.
Yeah.
The last name is actually Schaubach, so
I did it again.
it's okay.
So sorry.
No, that's okay. It's because we did the football thing.
Right.
It got stuck in your head. Completely okay. Yeah, I'm Joshua Schaubach. I'm with Schaubach Financial. Been an advisor for over 6 years. Before that, I was a business owner. I've owned as many as 9 gyms. Yeah.
You're physically fit?
Yeah. Still take care of myself. Yeah.
Got to.
Yeah.
So if you wouldn't mind, let's say I'm a client coming to you and we walk through a scenario. Should we just keep going? Say I'm a client, we run through a scenario, I'm a client coming to you, and I'm employed, I have a child on the way, and that's where we start. I don't know what to do. I am employed, but I don't know what questions to ask.
Perfect. Well, I'd say that's probably, for all of the listeners out there, probably one of the biggest hurdles. People, I brought up that I was in gyms. I've been in gyms. I've been in finance, 2 industries that I like to joke that people like to hang up on me. They think I'm either going to tell them they're fat or they're broke. There's a lot of preconceived notions about walking into a conversation like this. Maybe you think you don't have enough. Maybe you, like you said, don't even know where to start.
Right.
The first thing is look for a fiduciary financial advisor. And in many cases, you can find some that are not fee-based, which means it doesn't cost a thing to meet with them, have a conversation, and just tell them your story. At the very least, you'll walk out of every one of these conversations learning a lot. I can say that I was just like everyone else that's probably listening, that I had no clue what to do.
Really quickly, why is it important that your financial advisor is fiduciary?
It means by law and by license that they can only recommend what is best, right, and suitable for the client in front of them.
Okay.
So it's a lot more like a advisor versus a salesperson.
Gotcha.
You will find people that will claim to be financial advisors, but they're just pushing products.
Right.
If you ever get into a conversation with an advisor and they start telling you that they know what they need before they've even gotten to know you, that's a red flag.
Gotcha.
So first step is getting to know you as a person, hearing your story. I want to know personally, professionally, and financially, what would you like to improve? Where would you like to grow? Where do you see yourself in the next 3, 5, 10 years?
Okay, so let's say my concerns are providing for my future, providing for my child's education.
Yes.
And just being sure. Let's start there.
Yes, that's
Those
perfect.
are the first 2 concerns I bring up.
Okay, so with a plan, you want to picture it a lot like a house. So start with the foundation. And the foundation isn't going to be really exciting, but we're going to talk about basic adulting things like having the right amounts and types of insurances.
Okay.
First off, being a father, I would say that probably one of the most important things, if God forbid I don't come home, I want to leave something behind for my kid.
Certainly.
So similarly, life insurance. Not very exciting, but very crucial. A lot of other ways to use it within your financial plan, especially as your plan starts to evolve.
Okay.
Another basic insurance would be just protecting against your loss of income, injury, illness. It's called disability insurance, but the ability to have an income continue throughout is crucial.
Are you suggesting the insurance prior to the emergency fund? Having an emergency fund, or?
Yes, I would in sense of maybe side by side. A great saying we have in planning is everything is an and, not an or. So it wouldn't be instead of, it would be at the same time. So a full foundational plan would include the insurances. It would include paying down debt to free up cash flow and building an emergency fund. We typically recommend 3 to 6 months of expenses in emergency fund. And this is because we've all out there have heard the story of you putting everything into your debt, but having zero in savings. What happens to you when you have an emergency?
You're out of luck.
You go right back into debt, don't you? It's that vicious cycle that we've all experienced in one way or another So we got to nip that in the bud, and right away, immediately side by side. So putting some money into your savings at the same time you're aggressively paying down your debt.
Okay, so with these insurances, let's say a random number, we're at, to keep it simple, $1,000 a week on income. Then how do I go about deciding what to allocate towards the different insurances?
That's a great question.
The safety net.
I would say that's why you have the advisor. The advisor should be the one that should analyze your data. So if you say I make $1,000 a week, they're going to break that down. They should not give you an insurance that's taking up a big portion of your spending. Insurances should be, just a very small percentage of what you're doing. It's meant to protect. It's not meant to drain you. You shouldn't be giving your last pennies to insurance.
So if we're doing the insurance and the emergency fund at the same time, how do we decide how much, like say $1,000 is that number?
Okay. Meaning you have 1,000 left over each month, like a surplus?
No, I was saying 1,000 in general to work with. So we'd have to go over what that covers with bills per month. And
yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, as well too. So yes, the probably stepping back a moment, one of the first things would be to do a budget. I have found that this is an exercise that very few clients ever do,
right?
But when they do it, they all have the same thing. Wow, gave me self-awareness of where I'm putting my money. Most common exercise I do with clients when I complete a budget, I first, just before we actually go through each of the numbers, I ask them, how much does it take for you to spend?
Okay.
And it's like, what do you spend in any given month minus their income?
Mm-hmm.
And whatever that's left over, I say it out loud. And usually, let's say, example, I go, the math says that they have 2,000 left over.
Mm-hmm.
Almost every time I say, does that feel like what it's like you have? And never, right? They go, well, and then I say, so what does it feel like you have? Well, it feels like I have 500 left over.
Right.
But the math said they had 2,000 left over. So where is that 1,500 going? I call this unconscious spending.
I was thinking the same. Yeah.
And we all do it.
Right.
We have the money in our account, so we're not worried. So we just go and tap that card on the machine.
Yep.
And you do that enough times.
Right.
And now next thing you know, you're 1,500 less than what you should have had.
Right.
So I say this politely to all my clients, very respectfully, but it is absolutely true, is probably one of my greatest jobs as an advisor is to help protect your money from yourself. Does that make sense? Yeah, we all have it. I shared I was in the fitness industry and people would ask how to lose weight. One of the simplest ways is to take all the junk food out of your house. Right? So what is that? What are we doing? We're removing the temptation. So how do we remove the temptation when it comes to your budget? We partition it. A 401k, is not necessarily my favorite vehicle, but I really love how it operates. It works in a way where it forces people to save, right? You take that money directly out of your paycheck and you wake up years later and you got a big lump sum.
Right.
Similarly, if we can create more versions like that for you, you will be significantly better off. Most people try to do willpower. And like willpower is not, it's not a thing in my opinion. You just brought up, I'm a fit guy. I take care of myself. But if you had a cheesecake right here in front of me, I'd probably eat the whole thing. It's just the way it works. That's my willpower.
Right.
So, but keeping it away, same thing. If we can put your money into an account, it's growing, it's doing its thing, it's yours, but you are less likely to spend it. It's about putting guardrails up for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Let's say in the same scenario or a different scenario, I come in and I don't feel like financially I can afford anything.
That happens too.
Here.
Yeah. So for a lot of the people that aren't here, probably we can have almost like pre-advising. So what I'll meet with many clients, and it might just be to take a look at their debt, and we'll go into a detailed version of their debt. Because most of the time when people don't have cash flow, it's not that they don't make enough money, it's that they're spending a little bit too much.
Right.
And so maybe they got overboard with debt and now they're in interest payments that are so high that just feel like they're drowning. We need to focus on that. We need to take that weight off. So it would be maybe a conversation for 6 months to a year of working with a client on accelerated debt pay down and building their emergency fund before we've ever done a single insurance,
just to get to
before we've done anything else. Right. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, our job as advisors is not to take you by your ankles and shake out your last change. It's not to take your money. It's meant to make you feel financial freedom, to feel that comfort. Anybody that's dealt with financial stress or debt or anything like this, it's just not a good feeling. It ages you. It stresses you. So I essentially believe like my job is to help lower your stress with financials.
Do you include budgeting in like things like self-care?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have full pre-printed budgets that we do digital. They're actually PDF editables. We send it off to the client. They go and they type in every known expense, everything from like personal care to going out to eat to your rent to your utilities, total it all up. And it's a constant work in progress. So if we see, like you brought up, like maybe you're at break even, meaning you don't have any extra money left over each month, then that's the problem that needs to be solved before we move on to planning.
What do you do in that scenario?
Would be working on the debt. It would be just paying off and or just analyzing and maybe bringing awareness. Probably one of the greatest things about doing that budget exercise is a client says, I just wasn't aware I was spending this much in blank. Probably the most common is going out to eat.
Mm-hmm.
We don't aware if you were to go into your bank and look up how many times you've done DoorDash or Postmates or you just went out to the restaurant, and the way cost is now, I know how it is for me and my family. It's like you can't go out and spend less than, $100. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So
that's come up several times. So is that mostly what you encounter? People who have an issue with their budgeting is because they're spending money unconsciously? Yeah,
I would say they're spending money unconsciously, and like there's just a big differences. I think it's not lost on me on how much things cost. But that doesn't mean you have to go out and buy them. There's some of these things like we do, like, do we really need a coffee every single day? I don't know. I'm not trying to take people's pleasure away. I know that things that they want to do, but sometimes there has to be some give and take. If you are in a certain place and you want to get to a better place, sometimes there's a bit of sacrifice before you can succeed.
What if their finances are, okay, so the unnecessary things like that, the cup of coffee.
Yes.
Is it as simple as like this person makes more, so you want them to get it down to 1 cup too in general, so they have more extra, or are you trying to base it on what they have coming in?
It's usually based on what they have. If somebody is at break even, that is the first problem. We need to get to where a surplus. A number for everybody out
all
there.
The unnecessaries though?
I wouldn't, because we need to live, right? I'll work with my clients on what's called the 20-60-20 rule of saving. And so how this works is you want to get to where you have all of your expenses about 60% of your income.
Okay.
Using simple numbers, if you make $10,000 a month, you shouldn't spend any more than $6,000 per month on your bills. The next 20% is fun money. This is discretionary spending. We do need to work to live, not live to work, right? So if we're working all the time, we don't get to enjoy life, we don't get to see our kids, all this stuff, that's not worth it in the first place.
Right.
So we need to go out. You need to go, take the kids out to, whatever, go have some fun. And that's important. So that's 20%.
Right.
What does that leave left? It's the last, but I want you to count it as the first. The first 20% is what you should save.
Okay. So question, in my scenario, I am an expecting father. So do we still direct that same 20% towards me, or is that this money could be going towards my child when I have it, and that's extra money?
It's a good question. The 20%, I'll put it in two ways. One, your eventual goal is going to be a role model. Right? So our kids, I can speak for mine specifically, is he copies everything I do. So I really think about, well, what am I doing? Because I know he's probably going to want to do it. And that was one of the crucial things about me learning this journey. I'll be really clear, guys, too. I wasn't born knowing all of this stuff. It wasn't until I got into this industry I learned all about it and my eyes were opened. There is not a lot of knowledge out there. We don't get it in college. We're not taught these things. So I think it's our job to go out and seek out the expert. And that's what I did. I had an advisor, and that's how I got into this industry. As a father, I want to role model that to my son. I want him to learn so he doesn't have to go through the same pain points I did. Secondarily, it's the idea that when we're working with, a client that's that 20%, our job as the advisor is to then divvy up where that 20% goes based on the amount. If you have 20% left over, we will put some to the insurances, some to what your goals are. So maybe a common goal for a lot of clients is to buy a home. So maybe we need to set aside a fund for a down payment of a new home. College saving for kids, we put some for college saving for your future kid. And then not lastly, but also just as important is we need to set aside a big chunk for you, right? You need to eventually step aside from work one day. As much as we love work or however we much want to keep doing it, that might not be our choice. We might actually have a time where we just can't do it anymore. So we need to prepare for that day by setting aside that 20% for your future so that it's growing and compounding and that you can wake up one day and have a big lump sum of money that you can then live off of for your retirement.
So let's go into a couple of steps of that. So in my scenario, I have the emergency fund established. We've gone through the insurances, and now my next concerns are providing for my child's education and then providing for myself. Providing for myself in that moment when I decide to step away.
Absolutely. So I'll start by using the analogy. You remember, I don't know when's the last time you flew, but when they do the directions, when you say you're in there with your kid and the masks come down, who do you put the mask on first?
Right, yourself.
Okay, and the reason behind that is we need to be able to be around to take care of our loved ones, right? We're that head of household. We're here to take care of them and help them in any way we can. So that being said, if needed, could your kid get a student loan for college?
Needed?
If needed, yes. Could you get a loan for your retirement? No, doesn't exist. So this is in that analogy. I love the idea of taking care of the kid's college, but it does need to have an order of operations, and we need to take care of you first.
Okay, question then. Yeah. Aside from the kid's college, what about just money for the child in general? Are we starting?
That should be into the budget.
Okay.
I would, yeah. We would put that into the budget. We would say how much, because price definitely goes up. Kids are expensive, right? So we would factor that in. And I have many conversations with my clients around, hey, you can expect this for childcare. You can expect this for that. And we'll factor that into the budget before we make the determination of cash flow.
I mean, directly for the child earlier.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I don't mean the child's care. I mean the child's future when you're not around. Like what stage does that come in at?
That would probably, like when you're not around, like, do you mean like you're gone or like they're grown up and they're moved out?
Let's go with grown up. A happy scenario.
Yeah. So with that concept, we would have role modeled all of those things. So you are going to, that's probably part of it, is you having all of these budgets in place and you having saving for your retirement. Your child is going to be looking up to you their whole life, and they're going to probably have those things in place as well too. They start getting older, you're going to probably push them to go get a job, right? You know, maybe their first job they get at 16, and then now they're working and you teach them how to save some of that money. Maybe they open up their first Roth IRA and they're putting money away. That's a great thing for kids to start.
And what exactly is that?
So yeah, that's a great question. So it's an investment vehicle. It's what holds it. So it is an account that is what's called post-tax. Mm-hmm. So meaning you've already paid taxes on your money and you deposit that into this Roth IRA. In that Roth IRA, it's then invested and it grows tax-free. And when you pull it out, it comes out tax-free. So it's the concept, the most you can put into a Roth IRA currently is $7,000 per year. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that breaks down to about $583 per month. You're putting money into this Roth. You do it year over year. It compounds with the market, grows with the market, and then you can't touch it till 59 and a half. So it is a true retirement vehicle. But if you can imagine, I mean, 60 years old, if your kid started at 20 even, right, that's 40 years of compounded interest. You will have a large amount of money, and all of it will be tax-free.
And that's versus if it isn't a Roth, that it's being taxed on the way in and out.
It's the opposite of a 401k. So a 401k is pre-tax. So you don't have any money taken out of taxes. So remember, it comes directly from your check before it's been taxed. Mm-hmm. And then it's what's called tax deferred. So essentially you don't pay taxes on it any year until you turn 60 when you want to start taking money from your 401k. If you do, then you pay taxes on it as you withdraw it. Okay, so whatever the current tax rate is at that time. Yeah, so there's ways to strategically have a bit of both dollars, right? You can get yourself the amount of money that you need in retirement by mixing both Roth dollars and your pre-tax dollars.
And then at some point, I would imagine, the relationship is obviously ended. Are we putting in there planning for purchasing a home? Or?
The relationship, you mean between the advisor and yourself?
No, between mom and dad.
Copy.
So that I have to provide for my child. So within that, let's say in my scenario, I'm in an apartment. Am I just staying there because I'm living within my means, or am I planning to?
Yeah, that would be up to you. I would always recommend people live within or below their means, but then what's that until the means grow? Well, so it's about having goals. And clients tell me all the time what it is they want. They go, hey, I really want to have a big home with a pool for my kid. Great. Then let's work on that. And we create a funding source or a portion of your 20% that we're putting aside for a new home fund. Yeah. So there is a very famous saying, those who fail to plan to fail. That is the mission of mine, is I want to help people to create a plan. And I think that there's so many people out there, they are just possibly even a little fearful of even having this conversation.
Definitely.
And I just want them to know that by not having it, they're not going to be making any progress. Yeah. And so you're going to have that initial courage to be able to step out, have these tough conversations. Right. But once you get through them, it becomes so easy. You're just going to realize, wow, I wish I had done this sooner.
I think part of the issue too, I know for myself, I grew up in Detroit, and I was in a situation where the dysfunction is so normal.
Yes.
I didn't even think that there was a problem. So I know a lot of people there has to be other people who resonate with that too. I don't know what do those people do? Like, it's unfortunate because I've been through some things that obviously I know more now, but if you don't know to ask the questions, like that's why it's so important that we continue to spread the word and get people into the network.
Agreed, 100%. I think that there is a lot of different barriers out there. People that maybe are raised a certain way, like maybe even culturally, right? Like, we don't talk about money.
Right.
And, I remember that back in my gym days is like, people wouldn't step on a scale or look in a mirror. Didn't help them get in any better shape. Sometimes we need a realization. We need that life to smack us in the face and kind of go, no, we need to know where we're at. I need the good, the bad, and the ugly.
What you suggest open conversations with the children in regards to finances?
Absolutely.
Well, a lot of times in situations that I've been aware of or around, the parent's response to any questions financially is either I can or I can't afford it. It's not you're saying to get into a real conversation, like get into budgeting with the child early on and explain to them, like, we're not able to do this.
Maybe, hey, I'm not an expert in that area. So I would say that, like, with the parenting part, I would say you treat that on a case-by-case basis, and also the kid's age is important too, right? What is relative to them? There might be some really adult stuff that they don't need to know that we're going through. Right. And I definitely shelter some things from my son because I know that he's just not ready to be able to know about that type of stuff yet. But basic things of, I actually started my son off. They have an app called a Greenlight app.
Mm-hmm.
That was an interesting start to the whole financial conversation with him, which is essentially an app where I can put all his chores. I put the things that I need him to do around the house and everything, and then he gets a little bit of money for him, and it gets funded into a little debit card that he actually has and can see what it is. And I force into that debit card 20% savings.
Nice.
So if he gets a $10 allowance, $2 goes into savings immediately, and he can only spend $8. And he learns that right away. And I told him why he does that and what's the purpose on it. So some high level, and then as he gets older, I'll probably get deeper with him on more detailed conversations.
I didn't know that existed. That's a fantastic app.
Yeah.
I'm not. This is the part I'm not really sure This is the uncomfortable part. Why I understand why most people don't have the conversation, because my knowledge in all of this is so limited that
Understood.
I don't even know what question to ask as the next step.
So
that we've covered A, B, and C.
Let's go through like what a relationship would look like. So now we've had the first conversation, right? Mm-hmm. The first conversation is all about you.
Okay.
We've asked you your goals, your hopes, your dreams, and we've done the financial physical, which is essentially a breakdown of, do you have a 401k? How much do you have in savings? What is your income?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do a budget. How much do you spend each month? What is your family structure? Kids, ages, what's the story? Get the full picture. And once I can take both of those together, we'll part ways for about a week.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about how long it takes for our team to create a written financial plan.
Okay.
This written financial plan will be detailed in every form from, effectively, from taxes to retirement, to saving for kids' college, to paying down debt, to everything you can imagine under the sun, all in one thing. Then we set up a meeting, and I always call this just my educational meeting, because people come to it thinking, well, we're going to show a plan and we're going to have expectations. There really isn't any.
Right.
I don't force this down anybody's throat, because honestly, it has to be something that you come to naturally.
Right.
I'm not trying to twist your arm. If you see a value in it, we're going to work together. If not, we're going to part as friends. But either way, you will walk away with an intense amount of knowledge. A lot of times people describe going through the planning period as like drinking through a fire hose. They're like, wow, not only did I not know what a Roth IRA is, I didn't know that it could do this. I didn't know that you could mix it with this, this, and this. And we walk you through every one of those things. So a lot of the high level stuff we went over today, which are the most important for most people listening. Have a budget. Be mindful of what it is you're spending every single month.
Mm-hmm.
Have self-awareness there. Have a strategy around saving 20% everything that you make. Okay, pay yourself first. So put that 20% aside and spend everything else. Build an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses and aggressively pay down debt. When I say pay down the debt, another thing that would really be helpful is going in and locking your credit cards. I don't know how many times I hear people, they're like paying down their debt, but then they're still putting money on their credit cards.
Right.
So got to slow that process down. You got to get that cash flow in order. Then we look at the next steps. And then it's just a matter of what's the next thing we can do. When we get pay raises, why do we say 20%? Because you're not going to make the same your whole life.
Right.
You get a pay raise, guess what? Your savings goes up too.
Right.
And then it's just about creating that plan and then implementing said plan. So we work with our clients through their entire life.
Mm.
So we meet you wherever you're at. And then once we've gotten that plan in place, I like to joke with my clients, I hope they're not commitment phobic, because this could be one of the longest relationships of your life. Okay. We are working with you, and that's part of the fiduciary relationship as well too. We're not just trying to sell you something and then disappear. Our goal is to meet with you where you're at, mm-hmm. and then take forward progression. Every time we meet, every 3 to 6 months, we check in. Okay, you paid this much more debt down. Let's take that money and let's move it over here. Let's up the investments that we're putting away right now. And we consistently do a little bit. If you guys can think of it like going to a gym, we don't start off with a 400-pound squat on day one. We start off with the bar and then we work our way up and we just get stronger and stronger. You just do a little bit more. And that's probably one of the greatest life lessons I've ever had, whether it's from working out or from finance. It's just about being consistent.
So it's really important for people coming to you to have it in their heads to be able to accept the process.
Accept the process, yes. Be open-minded. It might be different than what you're used to. But I will say that, different isn't always bad.
I struggle with budgeting for that very reason, because the unconscious, not struggle with, but the unconscious spending it all feels like a need.
Yes.
When I'm doing it. So
yes.
I'm just working in my mind like how it would go as far as even budgeting that out. We're taking it down to the penny, like when clients come to you.
True. And then, but where we can come in and help with that is then those partitions, right? Once we find out where that money is going, let's just take it away from you. You don't have the temptation to go and have that need.
Right.
So if that money is just moved over into this account over here, and then you work with whatever you have, you'll be in a lot better position for future you.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do. That's where that 20% goes. It's meant to be for your future self. If we get that 20% year over year compounded, and then we have this big bucket of money, you'll be able to be in your 60s and be able to step away from work. And I like to put it as, you can work because you want to, not because you have to.
And as far as what should people expect compensation-wise, how does that work when they come to you? Because I know personally, if you're me coming,
oh yes,
he's so scared that I sell out a bunch of money.
Well, I put it like this. I am not a fee-based advisor, which means I don't charge by the hour. I'm not like a lawyer, charges by the minute. I mean, all conversations, every plan that I create, I do at no cost to my clients. I work on a give-to-get type relationship. So I will give you the plan and show you exactly what would need to be done. It's up to you whether you want to implement it or not. If you do, I am compensated through my broker. So it's made to be a relationship in that there's not going to be ever a time where you'll ever write a check to Schaubach Financial.
Right.
It always go to a major corporation, something like this, that I will basically be doing the advising. The other thing I'll bring up too is some of the things I talked about for those foundational clients, the ones that are just starting out and might not even be ready to plan.
Right.
I don't get paid a single thing working. Nothing. I work for free a lot of times, and I'm okay with that. This isn't something that I am not looking to, again, hurt people financially. It's exactly the opposite. So I have my mission, and that is to help enlighten people on some of the things that they could be doing, and educate them. Simple as that, because the moment they are educated, they're empowered to go and do all the things that they've always wanted.
Right. So what if a client isn't financially prepared when they come to you, and then you give them the plan to get financially prepared?
Yep.
There's a time limit.
There's a give to get, no time limit. So meaning it might take that client a year or two to get ready to be financially prepared.
I mean, is there a plan for that from you, or do you just say, prepare yourself and come back to me when you are prepared?
There is a reasonable plan. I will give them basic groundwork, a lot like we're talking about today, and I'll do that at no cost. I'll say, hey, here's what you're really going to need to focus on, and I'll give them a budget, and I'll show them, with their debt pay down and building their emergency fund. Those are all great stances. And then they say, okay, I can get this done by this time. And then I'm there for them. I'm ready for them. That's the whole idea, is typically when you give somebody something like that and you did it for nothing, they're like, okay, I want to go see this guy.
Yeah.
And that's where I do to give back, but it is a give to get. So it's until you are ready and you feel the value in what it is I'm giving, then we're right there.
So if someone was listening and they felt like they needed your services before they came to you, you would suggest that they immediately start throwing towards an emergency fund?
No, I would just honestly, no, let's get no more hurdles. If you're out there and you're listening and you think I would like to know more about this, just reach out, like have that courage. I will make it nice and easy and calm and inviting. We just will have a conversation. Like
so
two people.
What if they're fearful of that and that's when you would suggest, like, you're listening and they don't want to come in?
Yeah. I would say simply put, what do you have to lose?
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, I get it. There is fear in this conversation. I will tell you that all my clients give me the same feedback. The moment that after we have had the conversation, they said, wow, that went so much smoother, so much easier than I was seeing in my head. We typically blow things out of proportion. We make it to be like it's a real scary thing. It's just the unknown. And, let's make the unknown known.
Yeah. That was how I viewed this conversation before me and you got in this room.
Yeah. Yep.
Sorry, man. Yeah. Not really, huh? Oh, yeah, I know. I'm trying to figure out a good way to close it out. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, man. Just, anyway. So Joshua, I appreciate you being here, man. Thank you for your time. Where do people go if they need your assistance? How do they find you?
Yes, that's a great question. I would say feel free to reach out to the Single Fathers Network, and they would definitely connect you with me. My number, if I can give that right here, is is that
a thing we can do?
Yeah. If they want to ever reach out to my cell, it's 928-502-2082. That goes straight to my business. But anybody out there that is apprehensive or question, I will always take your call, even if it's just for a few questions, and anything else, I'd be here for you. Okay. I really appreciate you guys having me on.
We appreciate you being here, man. I'm sure, I know that was valuable information for myself, and I'm sure it was for we got to have you back on the show for a second edition when I think of some more stuff to ask.
All good. That sounds great to me.
I'm sorry, man. I have a pinched nerve in my neck that is kicking my ass.
I'm sorry. You sound like you're in pain.
I'm trying to stomach through it, man.
Yeah.
All right. I need to stand up.
Yeah. Do your thing.